Welcome to today's Explainer. Today we're going on a bit of a psychological journey, you and I. We're looking at a phenomenon we all encounter. You know, those difficult people in our lives who just seem to project this aura of absolute, unbreakable perfection. You know the exact type I'm talking about, right? So let's peel back the layers of human behavior together and see if we can clinically dissect the secret psychology behind fake confidence. Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to picture a really specific person in your life right now. Maybe it's a boss, maybe a romantic partner, or, that one colleague who acts like they literally invented the spreadsheet. They walk into a room with total authority. They speak like they hold the absolute truth, and they appear to have zero self-doubt. None. On the surface, it looks like the very definition of success, but something in your gut tells you it feels more like a rehearsed performance than reality. Well, as it turns out, psychology suggests your gut is absolutely right.
To understand what's actually going on here, we have to look at a major psychological pivot. Because there's a massive, massive difference between genuine confidence and, well, the performance. Real confidence, that's grounded solidly in actual experience and tangible evidence. But that loud, unwavering confidence we so often see in narcissistic patterns, that's actually a hidden internal mechanism. It's used for emotional self-protection. You see, when a person hasn't done the internal work to build a strong, genuine sense of self, they resort to projecting an image of value that, deep down, they don't actually believe they possess. It's basically a survival defense mechanism.
Section 1. The Confidence Illusion. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that psychology shows us that the people who look the most confident are quite frequently working the hardest to hide their absolute biggest insecurities. Whether they're secretly terrified about their intelligence, their appearance, or their actual level of success, they use this social mask as a literal psychological shield. By projecting an image of total, unquestionable certainty, they just avoid feeling emotionally exposed or vulnerable. It's a defense mechanism, plain and simple, designed entirely to protect their ego from that deep-seated fear of being judged or seen as inadequate by everyone around them.
Section 2. The blame game.
So what happens when things go wrong? Well, a person hiding behind fake confidence immediately looks for a scapegoat. If there's a massive failure at work, which, by the way, is a major threat to their ego, suddenly it's the boss's fault, or, the intern's fault. If there's a relationship issue, their partner takes all the blame. Even a random, everyday setback is blamed on a sudden streak of bad luck. The pattern is always exactly the same. Refuse ownership, shift the blame away from the self, and maintain that pristine illusion of superiority.
Psychologically speaking, accepting responsibility forces a person to confront some incredibly uncomfortable truths about their own flaws. And for someone wearing that social mask, that self-confrontation is just way too painful to endure. So they literally edit reality, just to avoid the pain of self-confrontation. By shifting the blame, they can keep their perfect identity completely, safely intact in their own minds.
Section 3. The Addiction to Validation.
Because their confidence is tied to a performance rather than genuine internal value, they place all of their focus on status and visibility. Real confidence, that comes from a stable self-image. It comes from putting in the hours. But for this personality type, looking successful is vastly more important than the actual, repetitive, and, let's be honest, often totally boring process of becoming truly skilled. They want the applause at the finish line, but they never want to actually run the race.
And since they lack a strong internal compass, a core why, they actually feel very little emotional reward from their own experiences unless those experiences are being actively witnessed by an audience. They are highly, highly influenced by whatever social trends will get them noticed. Why? Because they desperately need external validation to prove their worth. The outside world literally has to constantly prove their value to them simply because they cannot generate that feeling internally. Section 4. The Fragile Glass Ego. Here's the thing. Emotionally mature people, they're able to separate their behavior from their identity, right? If you tell them they made a mistake on a spreadsheet, they just fix the spreadsheet. But individuals hiding behind fake confidence experience what we call defensive fragility. Because their confidence is just a mask, they absolutely cannot separate their actions from their core being. This means that every single piece of feedback, no matter how small, no matter how constructive, isn't just a comment on their work. It's received as a direct, personal attack on who they are. And this brilliantly illustrates how the reaction actually unfolds. It happens in 3 really rapid steps. First, they receive a small criticism or, just a moment of honesty. Second, their brain actively rejects this information because it views that honesty as a literal threat to their entire being. And finally, step 3, they launch an immediate defensive response. Usually this looks like explosive anger, intense defensiveness, or just completely withdrawing from the situation. It's a pure, unadulterated survival reflex for the fragile ego. Section 5. The Fear of Connection.
The contrast here is just heartbreakingly stark. The illusion they work so tirelessly to maintain is one of being completely self-sufficient. They want to appear strong, unshakable, and often excessively busy. But the reality? The reality is they are desperately hiding their actual need for love, support, and understanding. Just like all human beings, they need connection. But to them, admitting that they need someone else feels like a uniquely terrifying vulnerability.
So to maintain that unshakable illusion, they build a massive wall. They use their loud confidence, their fake independence, or their constant busyness as a shield. Psychologically speaking, they are constantly escaping deep emotional discomfort by performing this rigid role. It's a role where they never, ever have to ask for help, totally avoiding the terrifying risk of being rejected or seen as weak.
So the crucial point is this. Confidence isn't about strength. It's about surviving a deep fear of rejection. When you look at it through this lens, everything completely changes. You actually stop seeing a dominant, intimidating powerhouse, and you start seeing a deeply insecure survivor, someone who is really just trying to make it through the day with their fragile ego shattering into a million pieces.
Now, why does all of this matter to you? Well, because once you understand that this outward display of authority is just a psychological tool used to avoid taking ownership, you gain incredible clarity. Recognizing these patterns allows you to see the actual truth behind behaviors that most people completely overlook. Understanding this psychology fundamentally shapes how we see and navigate our everyday interactions. It literally takes away their power to intimidate you, empowering you to handle these situations with insight rather than frustration. Oh, and by the way, if you love dissecting the hidden mechanics of human behavior like this, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our future explainers. I want to leave you with a final, thought-provoking question to carry with you today. Now that you know the small psychological shifts that make up fake confidence, I guarantee you'll start noticing the real truth behind the performance. So, who is hiding behind the mask in your life? Keep observing, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.